It can't be. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Do not forget to ring the notification bell if you want to support this independent national rebel outpost of college football. Just hit that dollar sign where you make a comment, and I will get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Since last night, I had it all planned out that I was going to begin the next live show showing the Greg the Gold, bragging about how I predicted Spain to beat Argentina and 2026 redemption tour, and I had it all set up. It was going to be a big celebration, but no. We can't have that. We can't have one day of the fat guy from Minnesota celebrating something that he got right in picking a game. No. No. No, that has been wiped off the books. This can't be. Those are the words that I received from BTM, short for Big Ten Man. If you don't know who Big Ten Man is, that's good. You're not supposed to know who Big Ten Man is. He was the one that helped me break this story. PJ Fleck of Notre Dame going to the men's hockey conference, Big Ten hockey conference. The USC story, Washington and Oregon. Helped me with Colorado. Helped me. He's been a big part of pretty much everything I've ever done in the last 12 years. He hasn't been a part of every story, especially with the expanded Rolodex. But I went to him. And he says it can't be. This is how he described this big story. And if you haven't, if you are not aware of the story, we are going to talk about this at the start of the monologue. We are going to talk about this at the back end of the monologue. And there ain't much monologue in between. Okay? This ain't quite a one-story show, but it is a one-story show. Let me show you the reporting from Ross Dellinger. And then I'm going to tell you what BTM said. Now, I had a discussion with Mohr. I had a talk with BTM. And I have not heard back from the chatter behind the curtain, which is expected. Very busy time in college football, SEC Media Days. We are going to go through what Sankey said today. This is going to be a big show. A big show. Let me first Ross Dellinger. The latest negotiations between lawmakers and officials from the SEC and the Big Ten is to cap conference membership at 19 schools and require programs that move from one power league to another to operate as an independent for 5 years, sources tell Yahoo Sports. These negotiations over bill revisions have been ongoing now for more than a week and are in an expedited stage. However, those involved caution that negotiations remain active and fluid. Nothing is set in concrete. This is how BTM explained it to me, because when this came out, he has tried to talk to as many people as possible. There's only one way for this. According to BTM, the only way that the negotiations could be going on to cap any conference at 19 schools, to cap the Big Ten at 19 schools, is that the Big Ten and the SEC are getting everything else in the bill, like everything. Like not a narrow antitrust exemption, but a wide antitrust exemption. They're getting everything. They're going to have the ability to set the player compensation range. They're going to have the third-party entity NIL money not count against the rev share cap. They're going to get everything else. They're going to get everything else to the point where the bill is not going to pass because they're not going to get enough votes on it because the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get everything else. Or if it does pass, they've gotten everything else. BTM said this. It can't be 19. It cannot be 19. That had been leaked for reasons to either kill the bill or it can't end at 19. And he gave I'm on the phone with him. This was not by text message. This was not by email. This was not by, he was on the phone. It can't be 19 because if it is 19, if it's let's pretend that these details are true and it passes like this. And there's no way in hell this is good. But let's just pretend that these are what it is. Cap at 19, requires programs to move from one power league to another to operate independent. BTM says it can't be that because of the simple fact that if this were to happen, Notre Dame would be laughing at the Big Ten from now until forever. Notre Dame would laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, and they would not stop laughing. This is Notre Dame's, this is like their biggest delusional dream that they could ever have. This is everything. Notre Dame is the only program that could move to a Power 4 conference. No one's going independent for 5 years. No one could afford that. Clemson's not, Florida State, none of these are. And the ACC would stay as it is. Notre Dame, and if Notre Dame and if the meeting negotiations, they probably will. If the Big Ten, they're sitting on a gold mine, SEC sitting on a gold mine, and maybe the Notre Dame would choose to join the Big Ten 5. This is Notre Dame's the ultimate dream. This is like Pete Bavacqua writing it up. Notre Dame would laugh at the Big Ten. They would not stop laughing. Watch your language, Mudville. That's your one and only warning. Watch your language. Would laugh. He went on to say, this can't be because you are locking in. Michigan is being locked in. Alabama is being locked in. All these schools are being locked in. Now, Alabama has no reason to leave the SEC. They probably won't have any reasons to leave the SEC for the next 50 or 100 years. Same thing with Michigan, Ohio. But you are stripping away the independent choice, the institutional choice of these schools. Which, by the way, Greg Sankey said during this SEC meetings that we need to protect institutional choice. We'll hit upon that in an article from The Athletic this morning. This is, first of all, this is shocking. Nobody. The chatter behind the curtain, nobody was talking about this type of parameter. Yeah, a cap? Sure, a cap. All right. As long as if the Big Ten and the SEC plays hardball and everything else. But the number 19? 19? That is an incredibly ugly number, 19. And then to have a program have to play independent for 5 years, you can't do that. So my question is, if this is truly being negotiated, and the SEC and the Big Ten are not asking for everything, they're not demanding everything else on the table. And if the SEC and the Big Ten are truly okay with this, even though they've been having all these elevated talks, all this positioning talks, and they have, Ross Dellinger says the shot clock, elevated talks between if the Big Ten, why wouldn't the Big Ten and the SEC say, all right, no expansion? Why this 19 doesn't do anything? It goes against everything that the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten have planned. The Southeastern Conference, even today, Greg Sankey says, first question out of the box, Southeastern Conference breakaway, is this real? Is this a real threat? Could this happen? And Greg Sankey says this is real. And that is what we have reported to you all, because the chatter behind the curtain is this is real. The SEC has been working on their breakaway plan. How real is it if you're willing to take away your sovereignty and capping at 19, which basically is capping the Southeastern Conference at 16 schools? Because North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, Clemson, going to be an independent for 5 years? That's not happening. And if this is truly being considered at a very serious stage, then the Southeastern Conference, and this is complete speculation, 100% speculation, then the Southeastern Conference must have come to a decision, and I don't think they have. But again, I'm trying to figure this out. So are people, they're trying to figure this out. Is this a leak from just the lawmakers? Is this the SEC and the Big Ten trying to sabotage this whole bill by trying to get everything else? Or is it the Southeastern Conference has said getting North Carolina is just become too expensive? You know, the Board of Governors, we would have to take North Carolina State possibly. What if it's become just too expensive? I don't think that's true. Again, to be fair, Ross Dellinger, these negotiations over bill revisions have been ongoing now for more than a week and are in an expedited stage. They're trying to get this done. However, those involved caution that negotiations remain active and fluid. Nothing is set in concrete. So, This very well could not be, this whole cap, especially at 19. Why would you cap it at, why would the Big Ten and SEC agree to cap it at 19? That's an ugly number for a conference membership. That just doesn't make any sense. Literally, it does not. It sounds like a lawmaker that has no clue on college sports. 19 does not make any sense at all. And if it's 19 and you got to be independent for 5 years, this is truly Notre Dame's greatest day since they won the national championship. Lou Holtz. This is Lou Holtz coming down from the heavens and granting Notre Dame everything they could possibly have wanted. It keeps the ACC absolutely intact, no matter how bad it gets. It keeps Miami boxed. It keeps Florida State boxed. It keeps Clemson boxed. Florida State and Clemson went to the courts and got this ACC settlement. Notre Dame got the ACC expansion. And now, if this would happen, this is Notre Dame laughing at everybody. Everybody. As BTM says, this can't be it. Because if it is, something has gone completely bat bleep. Now, there is this great motivation. There has been this great motivation to get this antitrust exemption. We need it. We all need it. I know, I get it. The NCAA is evil. They're evil. The NCAA is us. Us institutions. And we have screwed it up for decades. The pendulum went one way. The pendulum has swung the extreme the other way. But we need this antitrust exemption, or none of this is going to exist. It's all just, you can't do any rules. You can't enforce anything. So it's congressional help, codification of the House settlement, antitrust exemption, or it's the breakaway. There is no other option. There's zero other option. And the breakaway is such a scary and dangerous thing. It really, really, really is. It might work. It might be devastatingly bad. Is the fear of the breakaway so severe that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be like, all right, if we get this, we cap at 19, which basically caps the Southeastern Conference at 16, which basically caps the Big Ten at 18, with Notre Dame laughing at the Big Ten every single day from here into eternity. Now, according to reports, that is schools leaving from a Power 4 to another Power 4. The Big 12 could go to 19. The ACC could go to 19. UConn can go immediately. They don't have to go. They can go. They've been independent. But a G6 school going to the Big 12 would not have to do the 5-year independent because it's not power league to power league. And so if the Big 12 would ever expand, it would not be with ACC schools. If the ACC expand, it would not be with Big 12 schools. I guess maybe at that point, the Big 12 takes Memphis $250 million or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Probably not. If this actually becomes part of the formal revised bill, the Irish have the last laugh again. And for the Big Ten to put themselves in that position would be the ultimate embarrassing event of my lifetime when it comes to Big Ten. Am I going to sit here and believe that this is going to be part of the formal official revision of the bill? I cannot believe this. Not from everything that I have heard. There is no way on God's green earth that this can possibly be it. BTM says only if the Big Ten and the SEC get every other thing they ever possibly could want, knowing that the bill is not going to pass. In other words, they're supplanting the poison bill within the bill. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Cap at 19, what kind of harebrained idea is this? Time to really go nuclear, Greg? I'm with you. But the ones that are... Look, we're gonna go through the reporting here. And we're going to go through the reporting here. Greg Sankey makes it perfectly clear that the breakaway is a serious thing. It's not an empty threat. He goes through his frustrations, and they've got more than one, so does the Big Ten. And this just is not about the Big Ten. This is Southeastern Conference. The Southeastern Conference is, if this is a true real-life negotiation at capping at 19, the Southeastern Conference has made the decision to cap at 16. So while Notre Dame is laughing at the Big Ten, the SEC is putting themselves, is taking away their sovereignty. They're stripping their own sovereignty if this is truly actually going to be part of the formal revised bill. I am going to put my chips in the middle of the table, and I'm going to put a cheeseburger on it. A double cheeseburger. If this cap at 19, the Rossdale Ninja Report, if this ends up in the formal revised bill, and if the SEC and the Big Ten support that revised bill, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to choke on that cheeseburger. Let's go. We've got a lot to go through today. We got more reporting on that. Everybody hold up. Noah Berman, Greg the Gold, making his return this season by going all in on the green and gold Ducks. Thank you, Noah Berman. I appreciate it. I'm not all in on the Ducks. I'm not all in on the Ducks, but thank you for becoming a member for 7 months. I think they're going to have one hell of a season. I think they definitely are. But I'm not all in on the Ducks. But anyways, Night, Cloak and Dagger, Noah Berman, thank you very much. Caleb Ramirez, member for 31 months. If that were to happen, there was a small chance that the top 8 from each P2 after the media deals and create their own thing. No. That's not happening. Thank you, Caleb Ramirez, 31 months. Look, let me just say this. Fundamentally, who cares what I believe, right? But I'm just going to state this. It is fundamentally stupid to do this. This is basically boxing in Ohio State. Ohio State ain't going to be... It would be very difficult for the Buckeyes to lead the Big Ten. Now, the Buckeyes are not thinking about leaving the Big Ten. That's not my point. I'm talking about in future years. You're boxing in the Red Raiders. You're not... These institutions should have their choice of association athletically, academically, research-wise. Fundamentally, this goes against innovation. This goes against freedom of association. So for like a school like Minnesota, my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers, I guess this would be okay because, again, the top half of the Big Ten can't really leave. So yay, rah, right? No, this is stupid. This is dumb. This is idiotic. Excuse my language. It is. It really is. Conferences are going to have more leverage over every other on their institutions now. But granted, right, the media companies are going to have the institution, at an institutional level, you're being stripped. Except for Notre Dame. Notre Dame has the only freedom here. I cannot... Heartbreak 25, $5 holler. Thank you for starting us off. $5 super chat. Heartbreak 25, the Big Ten wants Notre Dame the same way Notre Dame wants independence. Special reasons. As a lifelong Big Ten fan, I'd rather wait 20 years for Notre Dame than 20 minutes for Florida State. And again, I can only tell you that the Big Ten has had, they have war gamed this out for a long time. They had nothing settled, nothing signed, sealed, and delivered. But they wanted to go to the southeastern part of the country. Look what Miami's president just said publicly. This would become very unexpected. Miami, this is horrible news for Miami and Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Utah and any other university that they're they've been investing, trying to get to a different level, P2. $5 holler. Thank you, Heartbreak 25. I very much appreciate it. Christopher Hooter. We're going to go back and talk about it, Hooter. Just joined What Is This 19 business. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. I just went through it. I'm going to go through it again. I want to get to some other parts of our show. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, Heartbreak 25, Caleb Ramirez, and Noah Berman. I appreciate it. I appreciate the 170 people are here right now. Irish eyes are smiling. Absolutely. I mean, if this is actually part of the formal revision, which I'm going to go ahead and say it's not. It won't be. It can't be. It just cannot be. It cannot be. Boston College, well, of course they are. Boston College is okay with this. Wow. Woo! Nothing is in concrete. It is fluid, as Ross Dellinger has reported. I don't know, Edward the Auburn Tiger. If this bill, this also is SC. Maybe I'm not getting my point across here. This bill would essentially have it that the SEC would not get North Carolina State, Clemson. They'd be stuck at 16. Unless those schools go independent for 5 years. And then possibly get an invite from the Southeast. No, this stops the Southeastern Conference as well. I understand that, Jared Jones. Mr. Buckeye, we ain't leaving the Big Ten. But if this bill gets passed, your sovereignty gets stripped away. Everybody's captured in the moment. 20, 30 years from now, things are going to be different. I don't know. I guess I'm the lone wolf here. Yes, that is true. That is true. I don't know what you sent me, John Grove. I don't know what you sent me. Oh, yes. Okay. We will get back to this because I know some people still don't know what the heck we're talking about here. Again, nothing is done here. Nothing is done. It is fluid. Ward Emanuel will step down at the end of the calendar year. The school announced. We talked about this last week. A big investigation. Again, he's not losing his job right now. By the end of the year. The investigation showed some weakness in his leadership, some strengths in his leadership, yada, yada, yada. And that's it for Ward Emanuel. So that is going to be a big position. That is open. The athletic director, Michigan, that is a big-time job. And they got to get somebody in there that will run a tight ship. I'm not going to be, if you want to talk about this story, give us a call, but I'm not going to cover any more of it. We've already covered it. We knew this was going to happen at some point. Brandon Marcello, Missouri Eli Drinkwitz says the SEC coaches are already regret moving the 9-game conference schedule. He says that Lane Kiffin has long been in front, saying a move from 8 games would be an issue. Drinkwitz points to the Big Ten not required to play A4 non-conference opponent. And I agree with Drinkwitz. Big Ten should have a requirement to play an A4 non-conference opponent. They should have a requirement to play 10 A4 schools. But let's not get it twisted. Most of them do. And most of them been doing that for decades, Drinkwitz. And we're talking 90% of them do. And then Drinkwitz follows it up with the dumbest comment I have heard yet in all these media days. Missouri Eli Drinkwitz says part of the reason the Big Ten has won 3 national titles when you don't play a non-conference A4 game. That is embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing. So when Indiana defeated Alabama 38-3, it's because they did not play an A4 non-conference game. When the Buckeyes took the Volunteers to the woodshed, this is ridiculous. I agree with Drinkwitz that the Big Ten should have a requirement. It's embarrassing that they don't. But this statement is even more embarrassing. No, that's not the reason, Drinkwitz. That is absolutely not the reason. My goodness. A lot of trauma in SEC country still today. Brett McMurphy, Southeastern Conference. Greg Sankey on confidence of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee recognizing the SEC scheduled strength. I'm actually one who believes competitors want a great challenge. We have heard about the strength of schedule, strength of record. Yeah, we've heard about it. We hear about it from you every single week of the season. I'm actually one who believes competitors want a great challenge. We have heard about strength of schedule, strength of record. We had what I would call an unsatisfactory conversation with the college football playoff staff. We have questions about them understanding the strength of the SEC. I don't even know what's going on here anymore. Is the Southeastern Conference upset? They got 5 teams in Atlanta. Well, what's the complaint? What is actually the complaint? I don't even get it anymore. I don't get it. You got teams in the playoffs. And because the Big Ten is not having a requirement to play 10 A4 games, you're losing, I guess, according to your coach Shrink. There's been a lot of trauma caused in SEC country. Sankey says there's been a lot of frustration from SEC schools and how things have been handled by the NCAA and its members. Brings up the 5-for-5 eligibility rule implementation as an example. That it happened the way it did, and it did magnifies the frustration. Greg Sankey asked by ESPN if the SEC needs all of its demands to be met in PCSA talks, or if 2 or 3 of those demands could suffice. Greg Sankey says it's a conversation. Do you have to bat 1,000? You try to never give up on things in those conversations. Says every element is worthy of conversation. Now I want to get to a little bit, again, it's behind a paywall, and it just got published this morning. So I'm only going to show you a very short part of it. Matt Baker. Commissioner Greg Sankey insists the SEC breakaway threat is real and rules frustration lingers. Just going to show you a small part of it. They're real, Sankey said. People have talked about it. The breakaway. They've opined about the frustrations that bring them to the point of saying we should look at something significantly different. Significantly different. I do not believe that this is a leverage point. I think it's just honest communication. I think that's what's important in those comments, represent a high level of frustration in the circumstances in which we find ourselves. There is meaning and value. And I do think the national expectation is that we participate in a national organization, the NCAA. Sankey said, but the national organization must function in a healthy manner Otherwise, that simmering will continue. The simmering of a breakaway. And this is the last part of the article that I want to show you. And this goes back to what Sankey says about institutional choice. Sankey also said that federal legislation remains a needed path for college sports as a whole, and that the conference is committed to getting a bill to the finish line. But he also cited ongoing dialogue and a few changes the SEC is promoting to the Protect College Sports Act. Among the changes, more transparency and accountability with name, image, and likeness rules and fair, consistent standards for conferences that also preserve institutional choice. Sankey did not mention it directly, but one provision essentially freezes conference realignment at the Power 4 level. ESPN and Yahoo reported Monday morning that one revision under discussion would cap the SEC and the Big Ten membership at 19. That is one revision. Again, among them, more transparency and accountability with name, image, and likeness rules and fair and consistent standards for conferences that also preserve institutional choice. Very interesting indeed. Now, I'm going to go back to the Ross Dellinger, because we brought it up at the very beginning of our show, and people might have missed it. This is Dellinger's reporting on the big story of today. The latest negotiations between lawmakers and officials from the SEC and the Big Ten is to cap conference membership at 19 schools and require programs that move from one power league to another to operate as an independent for 5 years, sources tell Yahoo Sports. These negotiations over bill revisions have been ongoing now for more than a week and are in an expedited stage. However, those involved caution that negotiations remain active and fluid and nothing is set in concrete. I also reported at the beginning of this program, talked to BTM, and he's got connections throughout all of the Big Ten. And he offered me the following statements. This can't be. And the only scenario that he could be thinking, that he thinks that this could be, is that the SEC and the Big Ten are expecting to get everything else in the bill. A wide-ranging antitrust protection. Wide-ranging. Get that done, get everything else done in the bill, and then the cap at 19, and then potentially in the future, somebody knocks that part down in the courts saying that you cannot cap free association like that. That is the one scenario, but other than that, this does not jive with what the Big Ten has been planning for a very long time in the Southeastern Conference as well. And again, if this did pass the way it is written in the Ross Dellinger Post, and I'm saying it's not going to do that, and if it does, I'll eat a double cheeseburger live on this program, and a double cheeseburger is an abomination. If it does pass the way it is written in the Dellinger Post, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are basically going to be the only Power 4 program that has the ultimate freedom to choose their association going forward. Think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. If Michigan got really upset with everything that the Big Ten is supposedly doing in Michigan, and Michigan wanted to leave the Big Ten, they would have to put their football program in a 5-year independent status? Come on. Texas Tech would have to be football independence for 5 years to leave the Big 12? Come on. Any other example that's going to pop up in the future? USC, Penn State, Alabama, Miami, Clemson, Florida State. Something that we would never imagine would happen. Only Notre Dame is going to have the freedom to be able to move easily because they've been football independents for 5 years. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to grant this to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish while taking away institutional choice, freedom of association from every other one of their teams in the conference. This is unbelievable. This can't be true. This goes way farther than, well, the Big Ten should not be able to expand anymore. They're evil. The SEC should not be able to do whatever they want to do anymore. This goes beyond all of that. Way beyond all of that. Woo! All right, let's go to your phone calls, your comments. I appreciate it. Again, phone calls and super chats supersede. We're going to go to friends. Call me Sean. $2 holler. PCSA nullifies the ACC agreement. Schools can't just go. That's true. That is absolutely true. And if this bill passes, I got a feeling that somebody's going to take that part to the courts. Capping at 19. You're capping freedom of association at 19. John Teal, thank you for the $2 holler. Friends, call me Sean. We've got a $2 holler from John Teal. SEC needs a refill of Preparation H. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Always appreciated your generosity, and nice to see you back in the chat room. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. This needs to go to federal court. AFKA. You are comparing apples and oranges across the green. Runs with scissors. Exactly, the Big Ten can now force Michigan and USC to subsidize the bottom half of the league, and they're stuck. Yeah, it's pretty clear. It's not a matter if anymore. The SEC will break away, and who can blame them? Capped at 19, independent for 5 years. Who in the hell do they think that they are following? This is not a serious offers. Lawmakers are forcing a breakaway. Again, it is quite the question, right? Who leaked this to Ross Dellinger? Who leaked this to Ross Dellinger? Ross Dellinger said we got to be cautious. Things are fluid. Nothing is concrete. This is one revision. One revision. There could be other caps at 22, 24 that they're discussing. One of the options that capping at 19, the SEC and the Big Ten's got to get basically everything else they wanted. Maybe there's a revise of cap. 19 is such a stupid number. I mean, really, it's just ridiculous. It is really, really bad. Now, can you imagine can you imagine if they put in the formal revised bill that the cap number is 20? And then anything beyond 20, you have to be football independents for 5 years. Let's just imagine that, for example. For just an example, we're just talking. It goes in the formal revised bill that conferences are capped at 20, and a power school cannot leave to another power school to join a conference that is at 20. You can't be the 21st team or the 22nd team or the 23rd team or 24th team in a conference unless you play football independence for 5 years. If that was in the bill, it would be a mad rush. It would be crazy. 19 is there for a reason. This is not arbitrary at all. Where Rod Nix, are you saying that because it's the Irish exception? If they want an antitrust exemption, then they should include relegation and promotion. 19 is the only Notre Dame's only number. J-Matt, the Big Ten, and the SEC are trying to destroy college football. We got Marcus Williams, Michigan Wolverine, member for 20 months. Holy smokes. Holy smokes, you're officially knighted cloak and dagger, Marcus Williams. Thank you, sir. I don't know what's worse. The SEC brass or the SEC fans so much cope that copium is the new element on the periodic table. That Eli Drinkwitz comment is... Now I got to question everything about the guy. I like the guy. He's a little weird. He's a little odd. He's done a really good job at the head coach of Missouri, though. Results matter. Results matter. He's done a good job. But that comment is... There has been a lot of trauma. This year, the Southeastern Conference is going to get off the mat, though. They're going to get a team in the championship game, and I think it's going to be the Texas Longhorns. Hopefully, a team, for their sake, they get a team in the conference championship game. Edward, the Auburn Tiger, when you play a brutal Southeastern Conference schedule, there is not much left in the tank at the end of the season. That is why the Southeastern Conference has not made it to the championship game the last 3 years. Frank Potter, the Florida State eyes are bigger than their wallet. 19 is so obviously political, it's stupid. John Grove, I did not see what you sent me. Let me hold on here. Okay. I was just looking at a new ESPN report. Nothing new in that ESPN report. Okay, let me... Be careful, Flugar, you might get excommunicated. It wouldn't be the first time, and it wouldn't be the last time. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1336. 1-333-763-260-1333. Let me know what you think. Could this possibly be in the formal revised bill? Could it really be? Could this actually happen? I'm saying no. No, it can't. It can't be. I don't see it. I don't see it. No.
Call from
Mohr.
Mohr after dark. Mohr, Mr. Buckeye. This cannot be. This cannot be in the formal revised bill and actually get passed and be supported by the Big Ten and the SEC unless they're getting everything else in the bill. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, this compromise is so devoid of logic it could only come from a politician, Greg.
Yeah.
I don't see either Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti signing off at 19. You're right. This gives Notre Dame basically everything Notre Dame wants. And it literally, Notre Dame has done so much damage to the ACC over the years. Now, if they get this exception, they're damaging Miami, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State. They're potentially damaging a bunch of these schools to remain independent.
It is. This is Notre Dame's ultimate dream, Owen.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a lot of these schools from the ACC or Big 12's ultimate nightmare.
Yes.
I mean, with this news, if this passes like this, the Big Ten's never adding anybody but Notre Dame. They're just not. That's, so if you're a school like Kansas, Utah, Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, Virginia, North Carolina, that's out the window. Your choice is the SEC, and if you're the SEC, you can't get. What do you take? You've got 3 teams that'll have to go independent for 5 years, which is logistically impossible.
Yep.
They don't have the money to do that. And I mean, but this is just another example of the ACC grabbing ankle for Notre Dame and just taking it. I mean, I can understand why Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina were so anti-Stanford Cal. How much more can they give up to Notre Dame? And Notre Dame's not going to join them as a full member. They just keep getting the best of the AC. They get the best of both worlds. They get to have their cake and eat it too.
This is the ultimate have your cake and eat it too.
Absolutely.
Notre Dame will have more institutional choice going forward than Ohio State.
Than every other school in the Power Four.
Yep.
Every other school. They would get true independence. Everybody else's sovereignty and autonomy would be reined in.
It is. This cannot possibly be in the bill.
This is a classic example of Notre Dame rules for thee, but not for me.
Did Notre Dame leak this? Is this part of a Notre Dame psychological warfare?
No, I'm sure this came out of Washington. Not Washington, University of Washington, but Washington, D.C. Because you can't keep a secret in Washington, D.C. It's like trying to walk a tiger with a leash. It's just not going to work. So this probably came out from Congress. I don't know the reason they did this. If they're trying to show how benevolent they are and giving the Big Ten and the SEC one team. It's just Greg, I think even if the Big Ten and SEC got everything in the bill, they can't just accept this.
I mean, Michigan wouldn't do that UC investment deal because they didn't want the grant of rights to go from 36 to 46. If this actually was part of the bill, Michigan, you're stuck in the Big Ten, and grant of rights don't mean jack. You're stuck. That's it, Michigan. So it's
but it's so devoid of any logic that this is clearly something the senator came up with. Yeah. Nobody in the Big Ten or the SEC could be this stupid.
If they are, woo!
I mean, if they are, I think it's time Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti start looking for new jobs.
Well, but they would have to have presidential support that support this. This cannot. Let's say we are correct, Mohr. Let's say this isn't really real, right? That this is one of the options that they're throwing out there. Now, let's take a look at something else here. Let's say there's other options, other cap options. A cap option of 20, cap option of 22, or you make it to where if a conference has to go over a certain cap number, that there has to be more severe consequences or payment, or schools would have to go into some sort of 5-year independent thing. What do you think? What if the cap number wasn't at 19? What if it was at a higher number? Would the Big Ten and SEC acquiesce to that?
Not if they've got that 5-year independent clause in there. It wouldn't matter how high the cap was.
Yeah, that 5-year independent thing, man, that is let's say that's not in there for 20 and below. Like you can go to 20, but there's no 5-year thing in that. Could that get the SEC and the Big Ten on board if they're getting a wide antitrust exemption? You can go to 20. Go ahead.
I don't know, Greg. I still think, look, if you're the SEC and you want to get into North Carolina and Virginia, you're going to have to untangle that.
Yeah.
Whether it's untangled before they leave or after they leave, you got to untangle getting it. So, I mean, there's 2 slots already for the big SEC. Now, your next 2 slots, you would probably assume you would take Clemson and Florida State. But if North Carolina insists on North Carolina State coming along, Virginia insists on Virginia Tech coming along, there's your 4 slots. So now you have Clemson, Florida State, and Miami sitting in the ACC. Now the Big Ten would have 2 more slots. They would take Notre Dame +1. Who would Notre Dame bring along as their +1?
I don't know.
It's probably not Miami. It's probably Stanford or Cal.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Miami, Clemson, and Florida State potentially in that scenario stuck in an ACC that even with unequal revenue sharing, they could never possibly catch up to the Big Ten or the SEC teams in terms of media money.
Yeah.
And, you know, those 3 brands aren't enough to buoy an entire conference, you know. Yeah, it just wouldn't work. I like every part of this that is a no-go for me.
Yeah. It's
almost like they're daring the SEC and the Big Ten to break away.
Yes. I mean, again, though, yeah, you're right. I mean, Ross Dellinger kind of left it up. It was a very vague type of report. Let me put it up on the screen here, because it could be that when Ross Dellinger says that latest negotiations between lawmakers and officials is to cap conference membership at 19 schools. Maybe that's more on the lawmakers' side, maybe the SEC and the Big Ten. But, you know, it almost sounds like the SEC and the Big Ten are willing to talk about it, though, right?
Again, it's a negotiation.
Yeah.
But this seems like the Congress's side of the negotiation. I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC would agree with this.
I don't
But
think so. I don't think it's. I don't know how they could.
Yeah, and again, he does a very good job there saying this negotiations remain active and fluid, because I think somebody in Congress deliberately put this out.
Yes.
To try and float it and say, look, we're trying to save the ACC, and we're trying to, we're willing to compromise, but this is a compromise that's really not a compromise. It's a compromise that the Big Ten and the SEC can't take. I mean, your negotiation tactic is, here's something we know you'll say no to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me. It hurts a lot of schools that aren't in the Big Ten or the SEC. Any of those schools looking to move up and join a power conference and get level revenue with those two power conferences, they're pretty much screwed. Florida State and Clemson, they've paid millions for a lawsuit to get out of the ACC, and now that's just going to be a net loss.
Yeah, I wonder if this was not leaked by the Big Ten and the SEC, if it was not leaked by them, I wonder if they have any thoughts about how this got into a Ross Dellinger report of today. Like, are they?
That's a great point, Greg. You know what? You might be 100% right. Maybe the Big Ten and the SEC leaked this. If these negotiations are just between the Big Ten, SEC, and Congress, maybe they leaked this to piss off some of these ACC schools, some of these Big 12 schools, get their, lobbyists fired up to, contact and say, hey, Utah, Kansas, Colorado, the Arizonas, Oklahoma State, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, getting all these schools in the state start whipping up their politicians to oppose this.
Yeah, and the good thing about this is that Ross Dellinger always follows up with more information. He might not be able to unload everything, but he'll have an article out later today. This will be part of the article, and he may give us a little bit more information in the article. Maybe he won't, but then later on in a College Football Inquirer podcast, he'll push the envelope a little bit more, depending on what he's allowed to say, and eventually we're going to learn more. We'll probably learn more about this before the end of day today.
Yeah, hopefully we do, Greg, but head scratcher for me, but I'll let somebody else call in now. Have a good show, Greg.
I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for the call. Tazbo, trying to call but only crony go through. I don't know why you would say that, Tazbo. I do Google phone. Next call that comes in, I take it. I don't see names. I don't even look at the phone number. The phone number does show up, but I don't look at the phone number. I just pop it, boom.
Rick?
Rick. I know it's Rick. So,
Yep.
Tazbo, I don't know why you'd say something like that. Like, this show is not for everybody. I guess it's not for you. Any phone call that comes in, I take it. It's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. So, you might be on the wrong show. Rick, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, depending upon what Ross Dellinger's.
Oh, jeez. Rick, call again, sir. I think I hit the wrong button. Now, that was by accident. Totally by accident. Rick, call again. Please, Rick. I was trying to clear an ad box, and I hit your... Rick, call again. My apologies. My apologies, Rick. Call again, please. I screwed up.
from?
Tazbo.
Tazbo, I'm going to have to hang up on you because I accidentally hung up on Rick. Call back after Rick calls, okay?
All right.
Appreciate it. Rick, call. I accidentally hung up on you. Rick, give us another call. Please. I was trying to clear out a box. Now I got everybody mad at me. All I do is I take the phone calls in, and the one time I hit the dump button, I want to hear from Tazbo. Now I'm in trouble. This is how it works, guys. Rick, I did not mean...
Call from?
All right.
Rick, I apologize. That was my fault. I was trying to clear something. I hit this red button. My apologies, sir. The floor is yours.
No, there's no need to apologize. It happens every other day to me when I'm trying to dial the phone.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that I wasn't convinced before, but I'm convinced today, after Sankey's speech, that this breakaway is a bluff. It's
really?
Saber rattling.
Oh, he said the opposite.
Just that is all the more reason.
Okay. All right.
He was the one behind the bluff of the breakaway that gave the Big Ten and the SEC the extra power in the playoffs.
In my opinion, that was a lot of bluff. Yes. But that was a bluff because that was before the House settlement thing became official.
And he led it. It was 98% him, 2% Petiti.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are now with 98% Sankey and 2% Petiti. No details, not one friggin' detail can anyone get from anyone. Even the great Ross Dellinger can get no details. Even the guy, your friend there in Tampa Bay with a newspaper, can't get any details on how this breakaway, this alleged breakaway by the SEC is going to work. And the reason they can't get any details is because there are none. Smoke and mirrors. It doesn't exist. It's a ploy and a tool being used and agreed upon. I'll say that it's agreed upon by Petiti, although he won't come out and say a damn thing. But he lets Sankey do all the talking for him in an effort to get this bill pushed through the way they want.
Friends Call Me Sean made a really interesting comment here. Friends Call Me Sean says, I think the lawmakers agree with Rick that the Big Ten and the SEC are bluffing. Do you agree that the lawmakers agree with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because all they're doing is attempting to kick the can down. They never do what they're supposed to do, which is the right thing. They do what's best for them being the Big Ten and the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of the ploy. And here is some more evidence. I'm going to give you a little bit more evidence.
Got it.
And I want you to prove me wrong when I give it to you.
Got it.
We've got no details other than people saying, I don't want to pick on the president of Georgia or any other team. I don't care.
Yeah.
which president, which AD. But they all talk about it,
Yeah.
but without details.
Yes.
If this were going to happen, the Big Ten would also have to do the same thing. We agree on that.
To go breakaway?
Correct.
Yes, I agree on. Yes.
You tell me everything that the Big Ten man knows, BTM knows about a Big Ten breakaway. What has he heard? Or anybody else behind the curtain has ever said about any detail about the Big Ten breaking away?
Yeah, the BTM has talked about it in some details.
What has he said?
Well, a couple of things I can't say, and I know he's watching this program. So let me get a moment here.
Let me make it easy for you and him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll make it easy for you. Are you convinced that there is substance to the Big Ten's breakaway based on what he said to you?
Yes. And I'm convinced that there's substance to a Big Ten breakaway, but convinced of a partial Big Ten breakaway. Not in the extreme mode.
What would that be? How is that different from an extreme?
I know I don't want to. We're going to get into this, but that would be that the Big Ten would still be allowed to play in the NCAA baseball tournament, basketball tournament. They just want to be able to set their own rules and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, then I guess I have to back down a bit.
But again,
well, no, because that's significant, Greg.
Yeah.
If he's aware of that, that's more than anything I've ever heard from the SEC.
There's been reporting about Donde Plowman taking the lead on looking at player compensation stuff with ESPN if they went into their silo. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you are correct. We're not getting into any details. And not only that, even with that, you can sit there and be writing things up, making rules. You can put pen to paper, but still it can be a bluff, right? You're going through the exercise, but you're not really committed to it. You're still not committed to it. So you could still be correct, Rick, even if they did give you some details.
Kind of in the gray area.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you with this. I'm going to pick on you.
Yep. Go ahead.
Greg Hypocrisy Flugar.
I've been called worse.
Don't talk about Big Ten sovereignty, Ohio State sovereignty, when the Big Ten is exercising their sovereignty to play 3 non-A4 schools out of conference. That's their sovereignty.
Yeah, it is, and I disagree with their decision. I'm not trying to strip them away from their decision. I'm not trying to strip away. I disagree with the decision that they've made within their sovereignty, but I disagree with it.
Well, good. We've got that clarified then.
Yeah.
You agree with their sovereignty to do it.
Yeah.
You just don't like it. Okay.
I think that they should use their sovereignty, and everybody agreed that there should be a requirement, but it's them deciding, not an outside force, that they should play 10 A4 opponents every season. But I
Okay,
also
we got
say
you.
that has nothing to do with the fact that Indiana won the national championship last year and the Buckeyes won it the year before and all that. So,
Okay, we got you on the record. Thanks for
got
taking
it.
the call.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Curtis says, Greg, the SEC and the Big Ten breakaway must happen.
From
Edward, the Auburn Tiger.
Edward, the Auburn Tiger. Thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Greg, man, appreciate the grinding, appreciate the hard work, appreciate keeping us informed, sir.
You got it, buddy.
And, Greg, I want to say that what I read was the first person that really broke that story we're talking about was Pete Thamel.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's an ESPN deal there.
Yeah, I
So
did
I don't
read his
know.
article. There's nothing different in it, though.
Yeah, but he was the first one to
Okay.
put it out there. So I'm thinking, maybe there's something there. But listen, the breakaway is real. I don't think one thing about Greg Sankey that I really admire about him, that he has never come on with his media days or wherever, and he may be stern about things, he may say things, but he's never been disrespectful or not portray himself nor the league of trying to work with others. So if anybody was going to try to watch media days, and from day one for him to come out and say, "Listen, we finna break away," that just ain't gonna happen.
True.
It's just not gonna happen. So, and I don't believe that someone would have leaked the information to Ross Dellinger that you put out so beautifully Friday if they didn't already know this information. And I
True.
believe that what they put out Friday lets us know how they feel, Big Ten, SEC, about how the negotiations are. But they're not going to say that publicly.
True.
They'll leak it like they just did through Ross. They won't say it publicly because they don't want to put up. They don't. It's not a good look, Greg, when the government, even if they're doing things you don't agree with, it's not a good look to appear to be going against the government. It's just not, especially when you're going to be doing your own breakaway. I mean, you need the political will because the same people that is trying to create this bill that you're disagreeing with, you're going to probably need them on the back end when you're doing the breakaway. You're going to need that political cover, that political understanding somewhat. So you're just not going to do things distasteful. And I've never seen Sankey nor the SEC. Now they will state their case. They will beat their chest. Not saying they won't do that, but they're not going to be condescending. They're not going to be appear that they're not trying to work for the good of the game. They're just not going to do that. So it's kind of maybe I'm a little frustrated with the process. I know everybody is. I want to see some action now, and I still believe that's going to be it. I believe they're working on it. I believe it's going to come together. But they're going the right way about this. You just can't be messy about it. You can't appear that you're just trying to go against the government. And so they're gonna let this place play out, and they're gonna say we were forced to do what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to work with the government. We tried to give put our input. We tried to negotiate, but it didn't come to where we are. So this is what we're going to do, and politically, socially, geographically, people are going to be able to work with that than them just digging in their heels right now while they're negotiating and everything to play out. It's just not going to be a good look for the SEC. So, but Greg, I was in the beginning of this episode here, and you said something about the Big Ten man, and
Yeah.
I guess you called him, he called you, and he was responding to this article, whatever. Could
Yeah.
you kind of go over that again as I hang up to kind of clarify some of that,
Yeah.
how they feel about it? Appreciate
sure
all
will.
you do, sir. Keep up the good work.
You got it. Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for the call, Edward, the Auburn Tiger. Basically, Big Ten Man says this this can't be. This revised, this part of it cannot be part. Capping at 19 and having a school have to be independent for 5 years for a Power 4 program to join another conference and that conference be capped at 19. He doesn't believe it. He does not believe this can be part of the formal revive. He doesn't think the Big Ten would support this.
From
Tazbo, thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
How you doing, my brother? You're not getting rid of me that easy.
Good. I'm glad I'm not. But I don't even know who's calling. There's no names. It's just a number. I don't recognize the numbers. So don't worry about it.
I'm just piping off. Don't mind me. I just piping off.
And Moen ain't no crony. Moen is an evil Buckeye. In fact, if I knew how to block that number, I would block Moen in a heartbeat. Go ahead, sir.
I got you. I do want to call in. I listen to, as you know, a lot of different podcasts. I love college football just as you do. I love your show. I love Moen's show. I love Locked On Big 12. I mean, I love all. I'm a West Virginia fan, okay? We die hard.
Yep.
So that being said, I would just like to take the Big Ten and the SEC down a little road, let them see the way we other conferences see what's going on.
Yep.
And the hypocrisy that's going on. And the stuff that the Big Ten, when they came out and said they won, I mean, it's all about greed and it's all about power. You know that. You say that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But when I sit and listen to people like you and Moen and all these different podcasts talking about sovereignty and this, that, and the other, it's not about sovereignty. It's about maintaining power. I mean, if the Big Ten was about sovereignty, then they wouldn't be trying to write out the fact that, you know, a 30-team super conference could come into effect because that's their sovereignty. That's their ability to associate, as everybody says. But nobody wants that because it would destroy the Big Ten. And what would happen to teams like Minnesota and when all these smaller teams that wouldn't make it into a 30-team super conference, is you'd be left behind like the rest of us. I mean, I want you to stop for a minute and think about what would happen if a super league came into effect through private equity, and it would just disseminate the Big Ten and the SEC second half of the leagues that historically operate in the middle of the second half. Correct?
Mm-hmm. True.
Just as when the Big Ten and the SEC starts coming and talking about just like when we lost Oklahoma and Texas, it almost decimated us.
Mm-hmm.
We survived. We're here. We're kicking. We're on life support, but we're still hanging in there. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to finish us off and finish off the ACC, and nobody seems to care because it's all about their sovereignty. But they don't want that to happen to them. You don't want that to happen to Minnesota. No. Auburn don't want that to happen to Auburn. I mean, you know what? Auburn. Some of y'all would probably get in just because you're the brand name, but I mean, if the people sit back and be honest with themselves and look at it and just call it what it is. Don't try to justify it. Don't try to act like it's something that it's not. It is what it is. The SEC and the Big Ten are trying to maintain power, and they've earned it. They've worked for it. They've got it, and I got no problem with that. But don't call it something that it's not. That's all I got to say. I love you, Greg.
All right. I want you to listen to my answer after you hang up, though, okay?
Oh, buddy. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Here's the thing. I believe I have been completely and totally consistent. You all let me know if you think I haven't been. Hold on.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. Can you hold on for a moment?
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it. I think I've been completely and totally consistent. You all let me know if you think I haven't been. I'm gonna answer Tazbo's thing here. I do believe in sovereignty. I do believe in freedom of association. I do believe that the Big Ten doesn't necessarily have to stay at 18, that they could go to 24 if they wanted to. If the Big Ten wanted a fracture, that they should be allowed to fracture. I've had hundreds of comments in the last 4 years, mainly by fans of ACC and Big 12 schools, say, Greg. Minnesota would be left behind. Greg. The Buckeyes should be making more than Minnesota. Greg. Ohio State and Michigan should break away. And I keep saying, Yes, if they want to, if they think it's better for them, they should be allowed to do so. I have never, ever, ever, ever fought against Ohio State's sovereignty in Michigan. They can do it with what USC did in the Pac-12. Nobody should be chained up to the University of Minnesota. I think we're a pretty decent value. I think we bring a lot to the table. But yes, we are at the bottom half of the Big Ten. And yes, I don't think Michigan should be bolted to the University of Minnesota. I've said that for 4 years. I don't know how many much more. I don't know how else to say this. There is nothing else. I don't know how you can say, now this is the time that everybody's got to stay in one spot and nobody looking out for the economics. You know, I don't understand that world. I don't. But you know what? I'm an old guy and things I believe in, a lot of people don't believe in anymore. So there it is. Now, when it comes to the Super League, yeah, you know what? I get why the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to get that in the bill, because they're being told that they can't acquire other schools, so therefore they don't want a Super League to do that. That's why they're battling for it. And I don't see any inconsistency with that. If you're going to strip away the Big Ten and the SEC, you cannot allow a third party private equity in. And when it comes to private equity in those super leagues, that has been a threat to the Big Ten and the SEC. And private equity, in my opinion, should be allowed. Of course they should be allowed to knock on the door of Ohio State, knock on the door of Michigan, knock on the door of Miami, knock on the door of Clemson. They should, of course they should. This is America, for God's sakes. Freedom of association. And that is why I was for the UC investment deal. Eventually I got there. That is why I'm for, eventually, unequal revenue sharing within the conference. If we form an enterprise, a Big Ten enterprise, for-profit enterprises, you give more shares to the bigger brands to deflect, to try to stave off the private equity third party. But I don't want to limit private equity. I don't want to limit any of these. I don't want to limit nothing. Consistency across the board. I know there have been schools hurt. I know there's been schools hurt by realignment. I get that. And hopefully they can hope. But I'm not a believer in anything remaining static either. I'm old enough to remember how the Big East basketball came to being. Big East basketball, that came out, bam, huge. I think the same thing could happen with one of these football conferences, a different association. Maybe I am not, look, even the Big Ten that's been around since 1896, forever is a very long time. There is nothing guaranteed that the Big Ten should go on for another 50 years. I don't think the Buckeyes should be handcuffed to Minnesota. I love my Gophers. But the Buckeyes should not be handcuffed to us. I think that is absolutely ridiculous on every level of my beliefs. And maybe guys like me we're just not, and don't tell me I don't love my Gophers. I love my Gophers. I'm very proud of the history of the University of Minnesota and that they built the Big Ten. But nobody should be stuck to the Big Ten. Nobody. I don't even know how somebody can. That just isn't part of my being. So I've been consistent, and I think I have been. Go ahead. Who's on the line? Rock and Rant. I apologize, sir. The floor is yours.
Come on, man. You should have known it was me from that secret crony hotline we have to make
Yeah.
sure we can
Yeah.
get through ahead of other people. And I mean, I know I shouldn't have revealed that, but I just feel like that we need.
I don't even. You guys should be lucky that I'm even capable of running this Google thing, and where there's a number and I hit the green button and then I hit the one number and I hit the red button. You guys, I have no ability to push. There is no queue on this thing. There is no order. There's one person on the line, and then that's it. And the next call comes in because I can't. You guys know I'm the original Minnesota moron. I can't operate anything more complicated than that. Go ahead, Rock and Rant.
Listen, I don't. All said and done, I don't see this being a thing, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
But, and I don't know whether it got leaked from, from one of the Power 2 conferences, or it got leaked from a politician from Cantwell's office, or it was strategically done to make somebody come on board or not come on board, or whatever it is, right? Whatever that version is, there's probably a case you could make for the source coming from wherever. But I think the thing that should just scare everybody, no matter how you think you feel about this, is somebody was literally dumb enough to think that this was a proposal to put out there that would actually get people on board or support, and that it would solve problems, right? So I see some fans, I'll give you an example. A BYU fan, like, hey, there's actually 9 slots to make this happen, right? Because if you add all of the potential openings from where the current Power 4 are. But that doesn't solve anyone's real problem. Ultimately, all it does, if you're a school that aspires to compete against national championships, and yes, outliers happen and a fluke can happen all of the time, it's still locking those other conferences, and even if they expand, into a permanent underclass status on what their media rights value would be, essentially forever.
Yes.
And also you're like, oh, cool, like now my conference isn't ding. But if you're not in a conference and your goal isn't, if you're in one of those conferences and your goal isn't to close, like I know Texas Tech, good, bad, or indifferent, they're trying to close the gap to compete for national championships. And they have the benefit right now of a billionaire, let's take aside his other parts, to close that gap that then feeds into the roster, even though they're not getting the money from the Big 12. These kind of moves, you might, it saved us. We're not gonna get completely poached, or the ACC other members, we're not gonna get completely poached. But you still could get 3 poached, and the 3 is enough to destroy any possibility of of keeping that gap even somewhat manageable. Should one of your members at some point figure out a new revenue source that can close the gap, and it's not dependent upon a billionaire who can change their mind, or 3 billionaires who can change their mind. You're never going to overcome that Ohio State's been there forever and has 110,000 seats. It sells merch to a large alumni base versus somebody else. But it's a media portion, even an unequal one, still is a $60 million gap from your conference. Yeah. What did it actually achieve?
Nothing.
And I definitely have a bias here, right? I certainly do not want Miami left out, because Miami's shown, whatever you think about the school, that they're trying to get back to a place where they're competing for national championships. How do I know that? I just watched it.
Yeah.
I don't know what this really ultimately does. I mean, it creates some opportunities for G6 to maybe go from a $5, $12, $15 million deal to maybe the low end of the Big 12 deal, right? $20, $30 million is material. But a lot of this other stuff, it makes no sense. And again, what should they be doing? They should be getting the stuff that everybody can agree upon in a bill done, right? And maybe one day you figure out another angle.
Yeah.
But they're going to lose everything over something like this, potentially. But I guess my biggest point, the fact that this even comes out in any form as part of a negotiation, wherever it came from, is so ridiculously insane to me.
Yes.
Because it doesn't actually solve anything.
It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't.
If those are the people in the room, all it does is it essentially targets maybe, let's call it 5 to 15 universities, potentially, from being able to rise up competitively if they wanted to without the benefactor of a billionaire behind them. That's all it does. So if this were true that the Big Ten and the SEC were negotiating this, and I don't know that I believe that's to be true as opposed to just a leak, but we're going into speculation zone. I don't believe this is going to happen. But in this alternative universe where that happens, and they were willing to because they made a math equation decision that, okay, great, we don't get to go to 22 or 24 and do this expansion, but we get to go 1 or 2 more or 3 more in the SEC's case, and we get those brands. The trade-off for not getting these other 1, 2, 5, whatever that number ultimately would have been, versus all the other things we're going to get in the Protect College Sports Act, that's worth it to us. Like, that's the negotiation we're willing to do. Then you have all of them theoretically happy, or at least like placated. Most of the smaller 450,000 students and universities, right, who across the rest of the NCAA and all the different divisions are fine, and you'll have this like one sliver of schools that got completely thrown aside in any aspirations they had to compete at a certain level long term without a benefactor.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there was a bunch of, that there was a buffet of things that Ross Dellinger could pick from, that he's heard, that he was allowed to talk about, that was part of these negotiations, and he picked the most absurd dish on the buffet to put in front of us. Because if this is a serious thing, then Lord, we are. My first reaction on X account and anybody that I talked to, I said, shocking. I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. I cannot believe that this is part of any report of any national reporter, that's part of any negotiations, even if this was a 5-minute conversation between the lawmakers and the Big Ten and the SEC. I can't believe it's part of any report.
That it's even dumber than the original one.
Dumber than even the original. Yeah, because Notre Dame comes out of this, and I said at the beginning of the show, Notre Dame would laugh at the Big Ten forever. Doesn't the Big Ten know that they would be looked upon like a bunch of chumps if they actually supported this revision because they got a whole bunch of other goodies in the bill? Notre Dame would laugh at the Big Ten. Notre Dame would laugh at Miami and North Carolina and everybody. They would laugh at everybody. Is this what we really want? The Fighting Irish laughing at everybody? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's, it's great speculation. My initial take on it was just, wait, there's no way that they're really, really talking about this, right? It's just some fool. So, of course, it's curious to see what the agenda, where it's coming from, who reported to Ross. I saw him actually. I think it's interesting. I don't know that there's a tea leaf in here, by the way, because this was recorded yesterday. But he was just talking with John Panzaro on his show, and I don't really normally watch that, but I just saw he was talking to Ross Dellinger in my feed. And so it was probably aired yesterday because he was getting ready or recorded Friday, Saturday, whatever. But he was basically talking about how he got asked a question that was about developing sources. And how he's been spending much more time the last 6 or 8 months with how the government works because of the impact. So I don't know if that's a tea leaf about where this is coming from. I just happened to see on his interview that was about the Protect College Sports Act, but then he got asked a question about being a reporter and how he's been developing sources over time and now recently on the government side. So with Ross, he's not always going to be right, and some people talk about him as a mouthpiece, but his sources could be from pretty much anywhere, right? They could come from the conference. They could come from a president.
Yes.
They could come from Congress. They could come from a state government office that is trying to leverage things. They could come from anywhere just based off of what his reporting has been. But either way, again, at its face, if it's actually true that it was proposed, even if the Big Ten and the SEC are laughing at it, the fact that somebody in the room thought this was a really good idea as proposed as a solution to that they have is laughable, because it's essentially saying, hey, I want to make sure I take care of this school, but I'm totally cool to completely screw that school.
Yeah.
Specifically. Because the universe of what it is. If Cantwell started to make sure for good reasons that a Washington State never happens again in its own type of form.
Yeah.
There are other forms that it could also happen to other schools that lock them into permanent second
Yes.
class too.
Yes. She's just creating a different, not just her, but everybody else, if they would agree to this. You just created another batch of victims, right? But this,
Right.
Yeah.
And at least you can disagree with me or whatever, but I said the same thing every single time. I mean, not the proverbial you. I may not like anything that's come out of some of these realignments, and I blame the ACC. I blame Miami for some of their own things over the years that helped the ACC get into a bad position and Swofford's bad deals, whatever. But no matter what, whether I like it or not, freedom of association derived from the First Amendment oversees anything optically for my specific school or interest, because the bad things that can happen when you start going against things for selfish reasons, against constitutional norms, are way worse, and you don't know how bad the law of unintended consequences will be versus the Protect College Sports Act.
Exactly.
And I'm done.
Yep. Correctly said. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
sir.
Greg.
Thank you very much.
Be good, man.
Yep. And that is why, and of course, Rock and Rant says it. Rock and Rant is able to say things that I just can't eloquently say. But what he said. That's why I, and I'll use Minnesota as an example.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan, can you hold on for just 1 second, please?
Certainly.
I do appreciate it. We got some very kind super chats here that I have not been able to get to, or I should have gotten to, but I did not. I apologize for that. What just happened here? Here we go. Sorry about that. Christopher Hooter, $2 holla. Sankey is not bluffing. I don't think he is either. Christopher Hooter, thank you for the $2 holler. I appreciate your generosity like always. The Evil Badger, $5 holler super chat. Rick, when you are playing Texas Hold'em, you don't show your cards until you have to show them. And I think that was in reference to no need to give out any details about how the breakaway would happen, how we could make it work, unless we have to actually pull the trigger. Thank you, Rick, Evil Badger. Thank you so much, kind sir. I appreciate your generosity, like always. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being a friend of this program and a friend of myself. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Tristan, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you taking my call. Listen, I'm sorry I didn't get to hear at the very beginning of the show. Did you discuss what's the logic of 19 by the people that are proposing this?
Great question. Other than it's the ultimate Notre Dame dream, don't have any clue what the logic is behind it.
So I guess I'm stating the obvious here, but I'll go ahead and say it. I'm sure someone else previously called in and said the same things. No one stops on an odd number, for starters.
Mm-hmm.
So this effectively stops the Big Ten where they are. Unless, of course, Notre Dame picked up the phone, then they'd find a way to make that work. But other than that, that stops them where they are. And then it gives the SEC the opportunity to try and get two more to be even with the Big Ten, right? And then they're essentially, the way this has been crafted, it's saying, all right, SEC, you get two more, and that's it. Both of you guys are done after that.
Mm-hmm.
And is that really going to pass? Does someone think that that'll pass? I think that that's a deal breaker, isn't it? It sounds like it should be.
I don't know, sir. Are you talking about the When you say what is a deal breaker, are you talking about the 19 thing, the cap?
Yeah, the 19.
Well,
at the first draft of this, Greg, they were saying the very first draft of this legislation was saying if your media revenue is $1 billion, you can't expand.
Yep.
And then you came on, and everyone pointed out this is an obvious way of saying Big Ten and SEC without saying Big Ten and SEC, right? Well, now they've just changed it to say, okay, you can't go past 19, or you can have 19. I guess is what they're saying, right? You're allowed to have 19.
Yep.
Which is a number no one would stop on. So the Big Ten stops where they are, and the SEC can get even with them, and then they're both stuck where they are.
But the
This is
SEC
the same
probably.
thing all over again.
But I don't know if you caught the other part of it. If you are a Power 4 program, you cannot join the SEC until you have played 5 years of independence. If you got 5 years of being an independent, that's part of this revised bill.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, let me show you. I'm going to put up on the screen. It's the latest negotiations between lawmakers and officials from the SEC and the Big Ten is to cap conference membership at 19 schools and require programs that move from one power league to another to operate as an independent for 5 years. It's just, it is unbelievably ridiculous on every level. And then Ross Dellinger says these negotiations over bill revisions have been ongoing now for more than a week and are in an expedited stage. However, those involved caution that the negotiations remain active and fluid and nothing is set in concrete.
Okay. Well, thank you for enlightening me.
Yeah.
So, Greg, I called in when they had this first draft of the legislation where they were targeting the SEC and the Big Ten at the $1 billion mark for media. And I said, hey, listen, I want them to go into a silo.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like the idea of a silo, but I hate this kind of legislation even worse. That's my stance in all of this. The government's making it worse. Okay. So that's I'm reiterating that.
Got it.
If this is the kind of legislation that we're going to get, then I prefer silos. Screw Congress, screw everyone else. Go in a silo, let the world exist. And it's been pointed out by people smarter than me that it may not work for the SEC.
Yeah.
It may not work for the Big Ten if they follow suit, right? There's danger. There's legit danger in that. But I don't think the danger in that is worse than the danger in this. I mean, well, you know, this is like getting the nose of the camel in the tent. And, you know, Congress, if everyone just goes along with this, which I can't imagine that it'll pass, I don't think it will, but if it were to somehow pass, we're now putting Congress in charge of who can be in what conference. It's going to trickle down into the scheduling. There'll be some revision. They'll say, oh, we need to manage how the schedules are made out. And it'll just never stop. They'll end up just managing the whole thing through legislation.
Yeah.
So I'm all in favor of the silos. I don't care what anyone else thinks. If this is the kind of crap legislation we're stuck with, go in a silo.
Yeah.
Let the chips fall where they may.
All right.
That's all I had for you, Greg. I appreciate you taking my call.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much, Christian. Beautiful call once again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. We got a very generous $10 super chat from Bulls Fan 2K7. South Florida Bulls. Do we know who suggested the 19 teams? If the Big Ten suggested it, then they want Notre Dame. If the SEC suggested it, it prevents the Big Ten from entering the Southeast. UCF still sucks. I think this came from the lawmakers because they want to, I don't think this was suggested by the Big Ten and the SEC. I'm wondering if there's a sliding scale of a cap number. Cap 19 to cap 24. The more the bigger the number that the Big Ten and the SEC would agree on, the less they would get from the other parts of the bill. If they agreed with cap 19, that means they would get a lot more other parts of the bill in their favor. I'm just throwing that out there. I have no idea, of course. I think it came from the lawmakers, and again, Big Ten. I mean, look, Notre Dame has not joined the Big Ten, right? In 100 years, right? There was a time that Notre Dame wanted to join, but the Big Ten was too stupid to bring Notre Dame on. And then you've got now where the Big Ten would like for Notre Dame to join the conference. But if you make it to where the ACC is the ACC, like Clemson's not going nowhere, Florida State's not going nowhere, Miami's not going nowhere. From a selfish standpoint, from the Big Ten's point of view, you made it way more difficult for Notre Dame to join the Big Ten. Less reasons. I keep talking about how the walls are closing in on Notre Dame, the economic consolidation, the SEC and the Big Ten potentially breaking away, the SEC potentially only playing their own schools. All that could force Notre Dame. I think it's going to force Notre Dame at some point. Again, economic consolidation is harder for a standalone program to stay up with these big bundled conferences when it comes to the value of your media rights. Well, if this thing passed, suddenly those walls that are closing in, now they're giving Notre Dame a whole lot more space to breathe. So I don't think this came from the Big Ten. I don't think this came from the Southeastern Conference. And I don't see it happening. If this cap at 19 with the 5-year having to be an independent program before you join another conference, if this is part of the bill, and if this bill passes with Big Ten and SEC support of the bill, I'm going to eat a double cheeseburger, and I'm not even going to try to survive it. I'm going to choke out double cheeseburger live, the great abomination, because this would be an abomination. This is Notre Dame's the ultimate dream, and they would laugh, and they should. Notre Dame should laugh at the Big Ten every single day if this is actually something that the SEC and the Big Ten would support. We'll find out. We'll find out together. Thank you, Bulls fan. I appreciate it, sir. Appreciate your generosity like always. I want to thank Bulls fan, Eva Badger, Christopher Hooter, Marcus Williams, John Teal. Friends call me Sean. Christopher Hooter, Heartbreak 25, Caleb Ramirez, and No Berman for your generosity and your support. Thank you for the phone calls as well. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 3 minutes and 28 seconds, 29 seconds, 30 seconds. So we are going to lock it up. We might have to come on later on again today if we actually get more detailed reporting on this cap at 19. So buckle up, brace for impact. Make sure you are notified when we come on live. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Gopher.